Hey everybody, I am live from the West Coast. This is Rachel Doherty live. I'm coming to you from Connecticut where I live. I'm on the Almost 30 Nation live stream here. My name is Rachel Doherty, like I said, the grounded therapist. And I'm so glad for whoever's going to join us on the West Coast. It's super early by you guys. So let's take a moment, settle in, and as people are alerted that we're here, and being told that I'm live, they'll join us. So like I said, my name is Rachel Doherty, the grounded therapist. I'm a therapist and coach in Connecticut over on the East Coast, and I work with ambitious women on knowing, learning, and practicing that they're enough, that you are enough already, and you have enough already. That's some tough stuff to accept or kind of be with. It can be really uncomfortable. And so that's where my work is. And it's so funny. I actually was on this live stream at the beginning of the pandemic, and it feels like a lifetime ago. I don't know about you guys. So as people join, I'm so happy that you're going to be here for this practice. We're going to talk about 3 ways to know that you're enough, to remember that you're already enough. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in below. I'm so grateful for everyone who's following through, jumping on and off. Let's get started. There's a lot of other people doing lives right now. So West Coast, you are just waking up. Let's talk about our patterns for a minute. I want to share that, our narratives really fuel how we interact with the world. So if we tell ourselves we aren't good and we are not accomplishing things and we're not enough, we're going to believe that. And so those narratives play a huge role in how we see ourselves. So just let's sit for a moment and just consider some nonsense we tell ourselves. So I eat too much. I'm a bad person. I'm a terrible parent. I don't have enough education. Whatever you're feeling, right? Notice those narratives. Notice those thought patterns. And sit with it for a minute. It can be so uncomfortable to really start to pay attention to the nonsense we tell ourselves, or that we're told. Right? Some of the conversations we're having right now on racism are messages that we are sent or that others receive, overtly or not, right? Just notice those patterns for a moment as we settle in. People find out I'm out here online. So let's take a deep breath and start to pull up a pattern. Right, so the mom guilt is live and real with me. I will assure you, I have a 3-year-old at home. I have been in my home quarantining, locked down in Connecticut since sometime in March. I've shut down my office, right? And it's very easy to fall in the trap of feeling like a bad parent, about feeling like a bad therapist because I can't see my clients in person. I'm someone who has several chronic illnesses. And so I don't have as much energy as maybe the person next to me. My kid sure has a ton of energy, right? So I don't always feel great about the amount of time as a business owner, about the amount of energy, about the amount of access my daughter has right now to me and to, the activities she used to have. So those are narratives we can choose to tell ourselves, right? But we don't have to believe them. And so awareness is a really great way to start to notice the way we talk to ourselves and the stories we are so committed to believing. And let go of some of that discomfort. If anyone wants to chime in and leave a post below, just sharing what you've noticed, if any patterns have come up to you. If not, that's okay too. Because that leads us right into our next point, right? How we talk to ourselves. If we're being compassionate or not, can play a huge role too in how we carry ourselves around. If you believe the stories you tell yourself all day long, all of the time, it gets really heavy. I don't want to carry it around. Think about holding a glass of water. Ooh, my hand looks really big right there. Right, if you're holding it, I'll keep my arm back, and you carry that glass of water, it gets really heavy. It gets heavier and heavier, right? Your arm would be out, but man, that is a scary image of my hand. So if you're holding your glass, right? At first it feels like, well, I can carry this, right? And then over time it gets heavier and heavier and harder to carry. So even though it might feel like, oh, yeah, but I just talk to myself like I'm a piece of garbage, right? It's how I motivate myself, right? If I wasn't mean to myself, I wouldn't get anything done. So that leads us to self-compassion. There's a huge body of work on how we can talk to ourselves with more compassion and get more done, which to perfectionists and type A controlling women especially feels just ridiculous, right? How would I motivate myself to get something done if I wasn't being cruel and mean to myself? Well, again, I have a toddler here trapped in my house. She's playing outside, actually. The way I speak to her, the way my partner speaks to her, the way anyone that interacts with her speaks to her is kind. We choose compassion. Even when she's doing so, she's a toddler, she does all kinds of stuff. She does not make great choices all the time. But if I told her, you're a terrible kid and you're the worst and you'll never be good enough and no one's going to like you, and you drew this terrible picture and you got on the wall or you knocked over your toy, right? And you talk down to her, well, one, I would throw you out of my house or wherever we were, right? And I'd be really enraged. But also I could do that too. And it would be so incredibly damaging. We would never talk to a child the way we try to motivate and talk to ourselves. I actually have an article coming out in the Purist magazine all about self-compassion and the different practices that you can do and see for yourself. And one of them I share in that article too is about using the visual of talking to a child. How you talk to a child can be how you talk to yourself. Because there's tons of research that kids that are told they're horrible, terrible children versus the kids that are supported and loved, they have to be corrected, right? This isn't just like sunshine and rainbows and gumdrops. But when you talk to them and explain what they did was incorrect or wrong or hurt somebody, like I have a dog here, and if my kid hurts my dog by accident, we talk about it and we tell her a different way. You can do that for yourself. Anyone have any examples they want to share? Might be a little vulnerable, but that's okay. And I just love seeing the names come up. So if anyone wants to share, I see lots of people popping in, and I'm super grateful that you're here. So can you think of an example of how you talked to yourself today or yesterday? If you're on the West Coast, you're just waking up, I imagine. I've been up for a long time. Oh, hey, thank you so much. All right, her Mike, I think is what the name is, wanting to take naps and feeling guilty. Okay, right. There's an opportunity for self-compassion. We are still in a pandemic. There's a lot of chaos and confusion about what direction to go, which phase each state is in, right? We are out in the streets protesting about racism and murders of people of color. That's exhausting. There's been a lot of discussion in those communities about how to rest, because if you rest, you can continue to pick up your banner and make the changes that need to happen, run for office, change, defund your police department. You can do that if you've slept and taken care of yourself. Right? You'd want your kid to nap. Totally. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. If we can talk to ourselves the way we speak to our children, we will be so much better off. There is no need to give ourselves a hard time, especially as parents, especially as people trying to make changes and having huge impacts. Yeah, amen. Thank you so much. Right? Yes. We need to be kind to ourselves. So the entire thing about self-compassion is that you will actually get more done when you are motivated to make changes by positive interactions with yourself and with the others, people that you surround yourself with. So that's self-compassion. We talked about the narratives. And then the third tip we're going to share, and then we'll kind of review those after, is checking the facts. It's one of my favorite skills. I actually have a worksheet that I have on my website for that. And so when you check the facts, I think of it as using Judge Judy. And Judge Judy, if you're out there, I love you so much. You're wonderful, right? So when you check the facts, you have to look at and examine exactly those narratives that we were talking about earlier. If your narrative is you've never accomplished anything, you've done nothing with your life, and then if you were in the court of Judge Judy, right? If you were in the people's court and you were breaking that down, she would want some receipts and she would want lists. And if you don't have that, right? If your brain can't tell you what those lists are, where the evidence is, then it's probably just a story, a belief, a narrative that came from somewhere else that's based on nothing, right? And you could do this in any part of your life. I don't get to date anybody because this thing is wrong with me. I didn't get the promotion because these things are wrong with me, or the things that I've done, right? I haven't accomplished anything. Except that usually when you look through the facts in your life, you will find out really quickly that is not true. There's plenty of evidence for people you've dated and jobs you've gotten or things you've accomplished. Even if you don't get the promotion, the fact that you got off the couch and tried, if you applied, I've gotten turned down for promotions, but I've interviewed and fought hard for them. I run my own business, and some days I'm not sure I have accomplished anything either. And I have to remind myself, and I have a team of people around me who support me, even my 3-year-old, who reminds me that I've done some great stuff. Every day you get up and you pick up that banner and you fight, you impact, try to make change, you reach out to other people live on the internet, you've accomplished something. Ooh, okay, Bear Loves is saying not being able to make decisions. Yeah, that one's really hard. They're all really hard, I should say. I don't want to quantify anything as being harder for one person than the other. But yes, that gets into perfectionism, which is a great way to kind of notice how you can check the facts. Perfectionism is within a cycle of procrastination, right? They kind of like fuel each other. I'll be perfect when I accomplish this thing. Like when I get a promotion and I'm perfect, I can then know I'm a good person. I know I've accomplished something, right? And you might avoid making that decision to apply for the promotion because of that cycle, right? If I get the promotion, I'll be perfect. If you do it and you don't get it, suddenly that framework you've built falls right apart because you're not worthy again, right? We look for these external validations. We try and make decisions based on like timing being perfect or the perfect options are laid out before you, right? But that's not how it works because that's never coming. The perfect time is never coming. During a pandemic, I tried to sell a product. Was it perfect timing? No. Did it go well? Not at all. I'm happy to own my failings and things that don't work out. But you can make the decision to try, even if you've never done it before. And again, when we go back to thinking about checking the facts, what's the evidence that I might know what I'm talking about? What's the evidence that I've done something and I will again? I like to use the analogy of Iron Man, right? So like if he checked the facts, like if you think about Tony Stark, he failed so many times building that Iron Man suit. So many times. Set his office on fire, fell to the ground 1 billion times, right? But he keeps going over and over again. Because if he looks back, he knows he's made great decisions and has a great mind. You could apply that to yourself. You don't have to be a wealthy fictional comic book movie star millionaire, billionaire probably, if not more, right? There are people with excessive confidence out there doing things they are not qualified to do, and yet they have impact, right? Good and bad. So we have to look at those examples to remind ourselves. And that kind of got all over the place. Did I answer your question, Bear Loves? I'm not sure. So thinking about making a decision, again, oh, good, right? When you've made a decision, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect place. It's about knowing that even if you fail, it's going to be okay. It will work out. And you'll learn from that experience so you can do it differently, better, with extra resources, tools, etc. in the future. Because you're enough, right? All three of these things. So the stories you're telling yourself, right? Those narratives, those thoughts and beliefs, that aren't based on anything. They're just either messages we've received, correctly or not, messages in the system that we exist in, stories we've told ourselves, generational stories that have impact on us. It doesn't mean it has to be true today. It doesn't mean it's accurate or based on fact. Who would get out of bed if that was true? We're all given messages and tell ourselves stories that aren't quite right or don't feel right for us. And yet we believe them anyway. And the next piece is self-compassion. What if we use that to motivate ourselves instead of self-criticism, self-judgment, shame, and guilt? Those are really not motivating emotions or thoughts. They will get us results of nothingness, of fear, of discomfort, of defensiveness. That's what happens. So when we're self-compassionate, think about how you would talk to a child. How would you talk to my 3-year-old? You better be kind to her. Right? But even if you aren't, right? You can notice how you would have a conversation with a child, even if it's not mine. If envision a child you see on the street. It's not a great example for a pandemic, but you've interacted with children before. You've seen them on TV. How would you choose to talk to them? Use that same language for yourself. It actually is more motivating, even though we think if I tell myself, I am terrible, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to do it, you'll get it wrong, you always mess things up, right? You would never tell that to a child. Never. And so if you can motivate yourself by being kind and saying, I'm going to try it, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to tap into that courage, I'm going to tap into my enoughness, I'm going to tap into my skills, and I'm going to go out and do this thing, right? I'm going to go live on this feed from my bedroom instead of my office when I'm trapped in a pandemic with my family who I love, right? It won't be perfect. But what if it works out? You won't know. Which leads us right into our next thing, perfectionism, procrastination, and how to check the facts, right? If you stay in fear and don't take action, nothing will change. Right? There are people risking their lives in the streets right now, trying to have impact and make change on systemic, deep-rooted stuff. And if they had too much doubt or fear, they wouldn't leave their rooms. They wouldn't be out there risking. And thinking on a more micro level, right? If you just showing up here and watching this, that's a risk, right? I might call you out. I might say something and get myself in trouble, right? But we can be imperfect people trying and listening and making change from a place of worthiness so that we're not defensive, so that we can listen and learn and make changes. We'll take action from a place like that and we'll get more done because we've taken care of ourselves and we can look back on the evidence. What have we learned? What have we done that makes us worthy, that shows we might know what we're doing, and even if we might mess it up, that's okay. We're gonna keep going. And we'll take those lessons, right? We'll take that information, we'll track that data, right? I look at who opens up my emails to see if people, read it, it resonated or not, people who clicked or didn't, right? You can pull that data, right? Did my kid have a better nap because she was promised a reward at the end of it and her whole life has been disrupted? The answer is yes. Like 8 out of 10 times. So we can be motivating. We can look at the data to pull some lessons out. We could be self-compassionate. We could check the facts and really, really observe the stories and the narratives we tell ourselves up here. Hey, Tara, thanks so much for being here. Yeah. Morning. I know it's so early for you guys. I hope I'm not too intense. I've had plenty of coffee at this point in my day because it's almost 11:20. So we're going to start winding things down, but I want to make sure, see if anyone has any questions before I kind of review, wrap up, and sort of reintroduce myself before I head out. Someone asked about making decisions. Someone talked about napping and feeling shame and guilt. Any other personal ones? I'm gonna have a sip of my shirt matches my mug here. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee and allow you guys to simmer and see if you have any questions. I made some good coffee today, I do have to say. All right. Sometimes it takes a while for people to hear it and then type it, and I will respond to it if it pops up. But when I work with the women that I work with around self-worth, worthiness, enoughness, even though that's terrible grammar, the women that I work with want to do more. Ooh, trusting yourself. See? It's awesome. Yep. Oh, hey, trusting yourself, how to know if a decision was the right one. Oh, those are great. I wish we had another half hour to just pull those apart. So, trusting yourself, right? That's sort of what this whole life has been about. Self-worth and self-trust are not that dissimilar. You probably know what you're doing. You're just not giving yourself credit for it. And I bet there's a bunch of narratives, a bunch of thoughts right up here that you repeat over and over so much, it's almost automatic, right? I won't be able to do it. I will say something, do something silly on this live and embarrass myself, and then I won't be able to show up ever again, right? We can tell ourselves these stories, and the more we repeat it, the more we start to wonder if they are facts instead of beliefs, instead of thoughts. And if you think about it, thoughts are just neurons firing in your brain. So congratulations, you're alive and you're human. It's a very basic thing, right? So we don't have to believe that just because neurons are firing, that something's true. One of my favorite examples is thinking about, I'm from New York City, right? Even though I live in Connecticut. And so if you're on top of the Empire State Building, I don't know if you've ever been up there, but it looks really scary. And you get out there and there's all these gates and there used to be tons of people. I'm sure not right now. And everyone up there is having the thought, what if I fell? What if I pushed somebody, or what if I threw something off the edge over the gates and fencing and all the protective stuff? It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're a human who's thinking strange, dark thoughts up there. Everyone around you is thinking the same thing. And also, I want to take a picture, right? That's the fourth thing people are thinking. It doesn't make them good or bad people. It's your actions. We all have dark thoughts. It's not a moral question. And it's a very regular thing. So those are just neurons firing. There's not a good neuron or a bad neuron. It just means your brain is working. And so you can trust yourself by looking back at the facts. What have you done? What are you doing? You've accomplished something. Even my 3-year-old has accomplished wonderful artistic feats, right? So I hope I answered that for trusting yourself. And then how to know if a decision was the right one. That's a sort of separate thing, but it sounds like a perfectionist issue, potentially. Oh, good. Okay. So when we're in perfection mode, right, like we have to get it right, we're also predicting the future. There's really no way to know if a decision was right or not. The way to do it for me and my take is being present with it. I actually have like a infographic on like how to make a decision, and it ends in make a decision, make a choice, grab your coffee, and get to work. Because whichever option you weigh out, right? Sorry, there's going to be a fire truck going by my window. I apologize for the sound. Sorry. Okay. That's what happens when you have your window open on a beautiful day like today. So when you make a decision, you can avoid making it forever, right? Oh, what if this? What if that? And if you hear a lot of what ifs, that's an answer that you are anxious and you're worried. So just know that there's some worrying going on, and you can do that forever until you don't make a decision and the opportunity has passed by. And so it's about weighing out the options that you have and picking the one that makes the most sense or is the most, affordable, or you have to decide, right? I can't tell you all the different factors to weigh, but you have to weigh it out and move forward with your choice, and know that if it doesn't work out the way you had hoped, it doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. It just means you made a decision. And then you'll learn from that and grow and do something different next time. But to be stuck in indecision and never make one is so much worse, because then you just worry and beat yourself up and create a new cycle of neurons firing. So weigh it out. Make sure you know what your options are. You can weigh them out. Sometimes I like a pro-con list, but that can work against you too. And then make the decision and just get to work with it. Right? I could have, for this live, right? I could have made 1,000 lists of things to say, what not to say. What am I going to talk about, right? I'm chatty. I don't know if you've noticed. That's the New Yorker in me. And I could do this forever, right? I could talk forever, and I could also spin out about what I want to talk about and then never have anything to say because I'm too scared and worried to do action. All right. So we're just about to wind down. Thank you so much for your questions. Again, my name is Rachel Daugherty, aka the Grounded Therapist. I'm working out of my bedroom in Mystic, Connecticut, where I'm a therapist and coach, and I work with ambitious women to help them know that they're enough, know their worth. That's my place I want to be. I just want to roll around in the feelings of unworthiness and let women know that we can make huge change, take the lead, bring down the patriarchy, if you will, bring down these systems if we just work from a place of worthiness, from a place of enoughness, and not believing every thought we have. Because who would get out of bed that way? Certainly not me. So thank you so much. We'll close with a little gratitude practice. And then just to review real quick, the 3 big points I made today are the stories we tell ourselves, right? Don't have to be true. We can check the facts, and we can use self-compassion, the way we speak to ourselves. We can choose to speak to ourselves like we would a kid, to motivate instead of give ourselves a hard time, so we can actually accomplish something. Because it's actually more motivating than you think, right? Your mind will tell you, oh, if I'm nice, I'll just sleep all day. That's not true. My kid doesn't sleep all day. You guys were kids once. You didn't sleep all day. You're not sleeping. You're awake watching me. So notice that self-compassion and that desire to give yourself a hard time and question it. Like, is this going to make me do this? Is this going to motivate me to make a decision? Probably not. So thank you so much. Let's rub our hands together. Normally we'd touch our faces at the end of this practice, but you don't have to do that because we don't really want to touch our faces right now. Plus I'm wearing glasses. So rub, 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 rub. Create some heat and energy. Maybe let out your breath if you've been holding it. And once you feel some heat, you can place those, like the base of your palm on your eyes or near your eyes. Right, I'm putting them in front of my glasses. And just feel that heat and energy you've created. Maybe float your eyes closed if that feels safe. Let out the breath you've been holding in. Give yourself some gratitude for showing up today, for asking some questions, for listening, maybe for sticking around the whole time, I'm not sure. And being open to making a change for yourself and for everyone around you, right? Thinking me, the people that are around me, the people that I know, acquaintances, total strangers, in the whole world. It really, vibes, reverberates out like a ripple. And to Almost 30 Nation and Almost 30 Podcast, thank you so much for having me back, for Chara, for helping me get this all set up. I am deeply honored, and I hope to be back soon. Thank you, and everyone have a good rest of your day. Bye.